Murphy, Commercial Director for Australia and New Zealand. I'm going to talk to you about navigating passwordless environments. And of course there's been a huge amount of talk during the event over the last day and a half around these particular concepts. So I'm going to go straight into a demo and that'll set the scene with a little bit of luck. What I will do, this is logging into Office from a remote perspective via browser. I will simply insert my key in a moment. I'll enter a PIN number. All that does is prove that I am the owner of that key. And of course you get an error. That's always the way it's meant to work. Let's try that again. Oh, it's failing. Okay.
As long as you want to do the presentation, I'm going to run.
So plugged in. What are we trying to achieve? What is it Yubico is trying to achieve? We're all well aware that one of the primary targets of perpetrators is to gain access to our credentials, our username password database. And there's been umpteen amount of information that talks about that over the years. And I can quote all sorts of wonderful data, but the one that I like about this most of all is clearly in excess of 80% of our data breaches are formed from the loss or weak passwords. So the loss of our passwords or from very weak passwords. What is the Australian government doing about it? So only recently they updated the ISM early in March of this year, and what they did say was out of a list of 6 things, at least 2 must exist. And one of those things is clearly to have a minimum 6-digit password or a 6-digit PIN, as the case may be, much like credit cards. And then universal second factor, physical one-time passwords, either biometrics or smart cards. So we must select 2 of those things. Let's dig a little bit deeper into that. What does it actually mean? Well, in principle, what they're saying is authenticators don't cut the mustard. So we need physical tokens. We need that air gap between our challenging device and the device that will respond to that challenge. And I'll dig a little deeper into that as well. What is the customer challenge? Over the years, what we've been trying to protect is our username database. It's not necessarily the primary target by itself. They will also try and target the individual account. Case in point, fairly well written about hack that was about 3 or 4 weeks ago was Air New Zealand, and all they had was a breach of 2 particular accounts. They didn't lose the whole username database. Those accounts had privilege, and with that privilege they gained the data access that they wanted. We're building to a crescendo. So stolen passwords is clearly what they're after, whether it be the large database of the complete username and password database in the organisation, or whether it be the individuals. Phishing, so many 2-factor authentication methods don't cut the mustard either. And by that I mean one-time passwords are very, very easy to breach from a man-in-the-middle attack. SMS is well documented as being probably not the strongest of authentication methods. And certainly mobile authenticators and mobile push, just by sheer method of their delivery, constitutes a fairly weak enablement of strong authentication and certainly opens them up to phishing. Historic challenges of 2-factor. Certainly the user experience is unpleasant. It's really, really annoying having to receive that one-time password, somehow extract it and then insert it into the challenging window, press the enter and away you go. It's difficult. We'll often have cracked screens on our mobile phones. I'm sure in this room there's probably a few cracked phones now, which will make it difficult to read that particular password. Batteries die, no doubt. There's no doubt about that. And then of course we are evolving back to the multiple authenticators for multiple services. It doesn't quite work the way in which we humans like to work. And that will make more sense shortly. And then of course we often have to carry multiple tokens for the multiple services, and it becomes very frustrating. I spent a number of years at Cisco a number of years ago, and I'd watch the field engineers come in from their day's effort, and they'd lay their raft of tokens out on the bench, and there'd be 5 or 6 RSA tokens, Vasco tokens. They'd flip them over on the back, and on the back of tokens it'd be O for Optus, T for Telstra, C for whoever, and so on. It's really, really frustrating, and it doesn't suit a conducive way to log in securely. So, what is a little history about authentication standards? Back in the 60s, IBM, memorise secret, our password. We've all become used to that. It's been around forever, but of course extremely broken. FIDO2, Google and Yubico invented and released in around 2014 the FIDO U2F, Universal Second Factor. So we were the original co-founders with Google of the FIDO Alliance. It's now grown well beyond our control, and I'll talk about that shortly. But it is all about strong two-factor authentication, very, very strong phishing defence, so it's near impossible to phish the credentials that are associated with that key. One key to many, many services, so you can have one particular token that can authenticate you across your raft of services, whether it be OTP, whether it be smart card or PIV, whether it be FIDO U2F, or whether it be FIDO2. So what is FIDO? It stands for Fast Identity Online, nice acronym. If you're a studier in the classics, it's also Latin for love and trust. And of course, we all know Fido as being a dog, something which is just really, really comfortable. The original concept of Fido, its mission was effectively to make authentication easy, to make it standards-based, to make it open source, to make it freely available. And Fido has been around since 2014, and a large number of digital assets present the Fido U2F protocol for us to use. Case in point, Google on G Suite, Facebook, a raft of services, Twitter, and so on and so forth. There is a very, very large digital footprint of those organisations that support Fido U2F. But in the Fido U2F standard, username passwords still exist. So to enter a Fido, to respond to a Fido challenge, you would enter your username, your password, insert the key, and then touch the key. The reason I touch the key, that proves user presence. And that's exactly what I've just gone through. So it really is a matter of, I'm challenged, I'm going to do a Fido U2F response, and that is enter the key after I've entered my username password, and then touch the key, and I will be in. And what Fido did was flip the whole public-private key exchange on its head. Instead of having the private key out on the challenging device, the public key is on the challenging device, and the private key sits on the token. So you become the owner of your own root of trust. We also do secure outbound keys, meaning the origin we know. So G00gle.com.au won't work because we know the original challenger was legitimately Google. It becomes very relevant when it's on the likes of a phone because the screen is a lot smaller, and it's often masked as well because I can't physically see it. So we certainly do origin. Clearly user presence. I'm very interested in the fact that it's a human who's logging in. One of the challenges with malware, it's very easy, of course, to intercept our username passwords. What I do want to do is add that additional piece of presence, which we did in Fido U2F, and that is you must touch the key. No, it's not biometric, as we're often asked, and there's a reason why we don't have it biometric at this stage. We may well as time goes by. But certainly, that user presence proves that you're human, and I cannot build a piece of malware that can reach out of my keyboard and physically touch the key. So I can't break that. Piece. Public key cryptography, clearly, private public key, very well proven process, excepting we flipped it on its head. And attestation, what that means is I will guarantee the condition of that key. I will guarantee or attest to the fact that that key is genuine. So all very important. And this just talks about the origin bound keys. So if we do change, which is often a very simple method of attack, is to change the outbound origin of the HTTPS string. We will make sure that the original authenticating device is what is legitimised and what it's meant to be. Same with the malware piece, I have talked about that. I need to physically touch the key, not biometric. And if you want a demo of that, we can certainly demonstrate that up at our stand up on the 3rd floor. So what have we achieved? This is just a revisit of a previous slide. So certainly the perpetrators were chasing access to either an individual's credentials or the complete username credentials. Now, those credentials, whilst not worthless, without the key they become worthless. So I can have a username database, and I could well lose that username database, but without my key that holds the unlocking component, so the private key, those credentials that may have been lost or stolen, almost become worthless. And I was a victim of the 300 million odd passwords that Facebook lost, that username password for my Facebook account was worthless because they didn't have access to my key. Now we've come to 2009, March of this year, FIDO2 was released. Microsoft joined the alliance some time ago, and they of course really loved the work that Google and Yubico had done, but they, like many other vendors, wanted to start to push the concept of a passwordless world. It became known as FIDO2. FIDO2 is backward compatible with FIDO U2F, meaning I can still have a username, password and a key. Another use case might be I am a store person and I don't need much in the way of access to the domain. I can literally insert my key, I'll get instructions on the screen, no other further intervention with the key at all, and I can only remain logged in while the key is present in the laptop. This all forms part of the FIDO2 protocol. If I need to, I can also get involved in step-up. So in a privileged access environment, same key might be, I certainly have to insert the key, I might get involved in biometrics, which might sit as a secure element on my phone or on my laptop, and I may also have to introduce the use of a PIN number. All of these particular use cases are available in FIDO2. So just to recap on that FIDO2 from an overview, certainly passwordless in the sense of just insertion of key and touch the key. That will give me access to the components within the domain that I'm genuinely interested in. Two-factor password and authenticator. So I might need a username, password, and then insert the key and touch it. And then certainly multi-factor and step-up, so I can add as many layers on the passwordless experience as I deem fit, and the protocol supports that. I stole this slide. This is actually from Alex Simon, who's the Senior Vice President for Project Management Product Management within Microsoft. And this talks about the journey that we're on with passwordless. And it is very relevant because it helps to position just what we're trying to achieve. We are clearly at stage 1. We have deployed password replacement offerings. There are quite a few vendors who are offering a FIDO2 experience, but it is very early. And by that I mean stage 2 is equally important, and that is where we start to change the challenging fabric. Meaning, as a user, I won't see 4 or 5 different challenging screens every day. I will see just one fabric. And that's where we start to come into a really useful scenario. Step 3 is certainly where we have an ability to no longer consider legacy applications anymore, because FIDO2 will fit in, and we could, greenfield organisations could comfortably transition to a passwordless world today. Stage 2 and stage 3 will probably start to mature as 2020 evolves. And then in 2021, I'm just predicting, by the way, we will eliminate passwords altogether, or the requirement for passwords. Some organisations will always consider passwords important, and that will be user experience. And based on the FIDO2 protocol, that is extremely possible. Let's summarise. What is the FIDO2 passwordless standard all about? In principle, it's to make it easy for us as human beings. Remembering the raft and the swag of different usernames and passwords is difficult. It is really awkward, and as our footprint digitally grows, so does our requirement for passwords. The concept of FIDO2 is everything resides on my key, and it doesn't really matter what's challenging me, I will respond as a human in one particular and only this particular way. It's a fair way off, but that's what we're aiming for. That's it. Look at that. Cut through with 5 minutes to spare. We are upstairs, level 3, out in the slightly larger. I would encourage you all to come visit if you like. We are running some good demonstrations of the key. We're also running a demonstration logging in from a passwordless perspective into Azure AD, so you can see how the experience actually works. With that, thank you.